When talking about who should get a move rework for the next installment of the Super Smash Bros. Series, I have a very humble opinion. Remove Flood from Mario's moveset. Remove it. Remove it now, right now, immediately. The reason why I say this is because I don't really think Flood teaches the player anything meaningful about the game as a whole, because if you look at Mario, and Mario is the de facto character to teach you how to play Super Smash Bros., right? He should have the basic essentials that you find in most of the cast. That's why I don't think you should get rid of the cape, because the cape is a very important teaching tool of how counters work, and a lot of characters have counters. It's also showing that because the cape can turn opponents around, that counter moves sometimes can just work as normal moves. They have another function besides reflecting a projectile or hit back at your opponent. Another interesting thing about the cape is that it is originally from Super Mario World. Super Mario World, I would say, and this could be just subjective, but is a more important game than Super Mario Sunshine, where both of them do have Yoshi, which is a very interesting connection, and both Flood and the cape from the Cape Feather are yellow. Super Mario World is the game that introduces Yoshi. Therefore, I would think it has more cultural importance than Super Mario Sunshine. Furthermore, it's just generally weird how Flood functions for Mario in Smash Brothers, because it is a charge move, and I get how that can be important in teaching the player how charge moves work, but I just don't think this is a good example of that mechanic, because the payoff for charging is simply just pushing your opponent back, and charge moves like, say, Mewtwo's Shadow Ball or Lucario's Aura Sphere do more than just that. They can just disintegrate the opponent most of the time. But with that being said as well, I don't necessarily think Sunshine is an important Mario game to the company as it stands now, because like I said in my Rosalina video regarding the Super Mario Galaxy movie trailer, it's weird that Bowser Jr., the Super Mario Sunshine character, is being introduced in a Super Mario Galaxy movie. But if you want to talk about the importance of Sunshine overall, Bowser Jr. is in Smash, so you'll always have a representative of Super Mario Sunshine in Smash because he does originate from that game. But I just find it weird that in other media, we're kind of just disregarding Sunshine altogether, and then he has powers reminiscent of what you see in Super Mario Wonder, but of course they all stem from him being Shadow Mario in Super Mario Sunshine. So all of that is interesting altogether, but as Flood works in Smash Brothers from Brawl all the way up to Ultimate, I just don't think it's a necessary or important teaching tool for the player. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying to remove it from Smash, but I am saying you should remove it from Mario's moveset. In place of Flood, I really do think Cappy from Super Mario Odyssey is a better replacement, because from the mods I have seen, Cappy could be something that seems very simplistic at first, but based on the movement options in Odyssey, you can do a lot with Cappy, and I think that will be a very good building block on teaching the player in question how movement can be manipulated in Smash Brothers, because there are a lot of moves like certain aerial moves that can provide you with recovery, and with Cappy being a down B, this could be one of those teaching tools to say that you don't necessarily have to rely on jumps or even your up B in order to give you more airtime or some recovery time before you actually pop a jump or an up B. But with that being said, if Cappy has even half the movement that it has in Super Mario Odyssey in the next Super Smash Bros. Installment, I can see this being a big payoff for actually mastering the move for the player, whether they're a veteran player or someone just starting out. And based on what we see in Donkey Kong Bonanza, no spoilers, but I will say things initially introduced in Super Mario Odyssey do return in Donkey Kong Bonanza. So with that being said, it's really leaning on Odyssey being the front runner for what Mario games are possibly going to be in the future. Now, as to what to do with Flood in Super Smash Bros., I think it should be a part of Professor Egad's moveset. And by that, I'm saying Professor Egad should be added to Super Smash Bros., as he is an important character based on him having a presence that permeates throughout the Mario franchise, because he did invent Bowser Jr.'s paintbrush, he invented Flood, and he invented the various vacuums that Luigi uses in the Luigi's Mansion games, and he's a reoccurring character in those Luigi's Mansion games. So even now, when you're talking about the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the paintbrush does come from Egad. So Egad is an increasingly important character in the Mario franchise. So I think he deserves representation in Super Smash Bros. And it would be interesting to see all of his inventions under one umbrella in the form of his moveset. So you get to see more variations of Flood in that way, like the hover nozzle, the turbo nozzle, and the rocket nozzle. And then you get to see the various vacuums that Luigi uses. And of course, perhaps maybe he can use Bowser Jr.'s paintbrush and turn himself into a Shadow Mario variant of some sort. I'm not sure, but it's just something to think about. But with that being said, stay rosy.